Hey everyone, I'm Chris, and welcome to this comprehensive n8n masterclass where I'll take you from zero to hero in building powerful automations and AI-powered workflows. If you're tired of repetitive tasks eating up your day, manually moving data between apps, or you've been looking for a way to implement AI into your own workflows without a deep technical knowledge, this tutorial is exactly what you need. n8n is a powerful low-code automation platform that's going to transform how you work. And the best part, you don't need to be a programming expert to use it. Whether you're a complete beginner or someone with automation experience looking to level up your skills, this tutorial is designed for you. We'll start with the fundamentals and we'll progressively build towards advanced implementation. Throughout this masterclass, we'll cover 8 comprehensive chapters. The first one being Introduction to n8n, understanding what it is and why it matters. Then, we'll be looking at navigating the n8n canvas, essentially getting comfortable with the interface. Then, we'll be working with nodes, testing workflows, and understanding data flow. After that, we'll be building your first practical workflow with Google Sheets. And then we'll be setting up automatic triggers to run your workflows at the right time. After that, we'll be manipulating data with expressions and handling errors effectively. We'll also be leveraging n8n's powerful AI nodes to build intelligent systems. And lastly, we'll be creating a complete Telegram expense tracker with AI categorization, currency conversion, and data storage. Now, what makes this tutorial special is that we'll apply everything you learned throughout these chapters to build a real-world project by the end. You'll see exactly how all these concepts come together in a practical, useful application. And by the end of this tutorial, both beginners and more experienced users will have the skills to build sophisticated workflows that can save hours of manual work every week. In just a moment, my co-founder and partner Luca will be taking you through all these chapters and showing you exactly how to build these powerful automations. He's our technical genius, and you're going to love his clear explanations on how everything works. So grab your favorite AI note-taking tool or good old pen and paper and get ready to dive into the world of n8n automation with Luca.
Okay, so we can hop straight into n8n. This is your dashboard, your account dashboard. As soon as you open your account, you can see you've got a few options here between workflows, credentials, executions, project settings. We're going to hop straight in and create our first workflow. So we can click up here and we can name our workflow tutorial. So this is your n8n canvas, completely blank canvas. n8n is a platform of move, drag and drop, low-code platform. So the first thing you're always going to be adding is something like a manual trigger. As you can see, there's quite a lot of triggers. For this one, it's just manual trigger. That is how you add a node, is what we call these cards here. n8n is a platform where you can either self-host or you can host it on n8n servers. To be honest, hosting on n8n servers is great for starting off. We have actually just recently moved to self-hosted because we just need a bit more flexibility with privacy and all that kind of stuff with the solutions that we have. But if you're just starting out, it's great to use just the local n8n server because they fix all the bugs, they maintain it, and they update it as well. So yeah, that's it. Okay, and then we're going to add our first node. In order to do that, we're going to press on the plus sign on the top right corner. It makes it kind of easy for you here whether you want AI, action in-app, data transformation, flow, human in loop. So if you click on AI, you get all these options such as information extractor, OpenAI, etc. All we're going to do for the moment is set a value. So it's the edit field set. And what we're going to do is drag this up here, connect it to our trigger node, and then we can set a value. That's all it means. So it can be whatever you want. We can either map it from a previous node, or we can just set it within the node. And for this one, we're going to click on this and add a field, keep it on manual mapping, and we're going to do invoice status, and we'll set the value as received. And then I always just click out here, just outside the panels to get out of it, press save, and then we can test our workflow, and we can see that we now have a value invoice status is received. This test workflow is your best friend in order to test things and just run the workflow basically to make sure everything's working really well as you're building and as you're going. And then to go through some of the other triggers and nodes that we could use, we'll go through the triggers first. So if we press in here, as you can see, trigger manually is the one we have at the moment. On app events is, for example, when an email is received or when a text is received on Slack or WhatsApp, for example. We'll go into a few examples of these. As you can see, n8n provide loads of really useful integrations, so it should suit you in whatever solution you're looking to build. As you can see, we've got an email trigger here, so set your credential, we'll go through that as well. And then, yeah, that triggers basically when received an email. We can also go to We can also go to chat trigger. So this is if you just wanted to make a chatbot, and then we can open the chat here, press hello, and that is received. So we've got a session ID, it's the action to send message, and the chat input is hello. We also, in the triggers, we have stuff such as on schedule. This is if you want to do, you want to schedule the trigger for your workflow at 24 hours or every 1 hour or even every minute. That's very useful. Some more examples here on webhook call. Webhooks are super useful to learn about them. It basically means sending values in a webhook request from one platform to another. That's how we use it anyway. On form submission, this is great for getting details on someone for a workout plan, for example, and you need to qualify them on a form submission. That means you can get the data in into n8n. When executed by another workflow, that's if we're using multiple workflows across, I suppose, the same solution. So if I need to create one workflow to get the value of or the weather today, but then I still need to carry on with this workflow, that's when we use that. We've been through the on-chat message. And then as you can see here, there's a few other ones such as error trigger, MCP server trigger, n8n. We then have some AI nodes here. An AI agent is basically a node that you can give it a prompt and it'll call tools based on your prompt. So I can attach different tools to that. For example, if I prompt the AI agent to send an email when someone writes a message, then that's what we'd use. If I want an AI model to analyze an image or classify a text, I'd use this. Basic LLM chain, information extractor if I want to get certain information out from a big chunk of data, question and answer chain, sentiment analysis, summarization chain, text classifier, and AI transform. The transform one is when you want to transform, it could be HTML into plain text, for example. And then you get more complicated into vector store tools and stuff like that. But yeah, have a play around with these super useful nodes that n8n provide. There's data transformation, which is, if you want to filter something. So if, filter a condition node would be if X value equals true, then filter that through. Or if, for example, the user already exists in the database, a bit more complicated, but that's how you can utilize it. Limit the number of items, remove duplicates, spit out and aggregate. They're very useful. If you want to merge data together, use the merge node. Summarize, so if you want to sum count across items, that's very useful. As you can see, there's so many here to go through. Even a crypto one to provide cryptographic utilities. Edit fields, you saw what we just did. Date and time, manipulate date and time values. So yeah, have a look through all them. They're all very fun and very useful. We've got flow nodes, which is again trigger, true false, leap over items, merge, quite similar to the data transformation. And then we've got these ones, as we talked about, webhook request. They're very useful working between different platforms. The HTTP request is basically making a request to a web page, basically with certain requests and certain values. And then we've been through a few of these already. If we're using webhook, then if we go back and then we've got human in the loop. So this is sending, let's say, a value from n8n and waiting for confirmation from a human within a certain platform. So for example, if it's on Slack and we send a draft of a blog, but a human needs to confirm that the blog is good before it gets posted onto your website, for example, that's when we'd use human in the loop. Okay, so now we're going to use one of these nodes and we're going to go on a flow node. So we're going to use the if. And what we're going to do here, we're going to bring this down and connect it to edit fields. And then this is going to determine on whether the invoice was received or whether it wasn't. So if we click here, execute previous nodes, this gives us the data from the last one. I always like to use schema here, which just makes it really easy for me to drag and drop. And then if we pop, so if invoice status, so the variable here is equal to received, then that gives us the condition that we're basing it on. So if it's true, we're going to bring it to another edit fields node, and we're just going to duplicate this. You don't have to duplicate, you can just get another node from here, but it's nice and quick and easy to duplicate. So now we've got our two nodes here, and if it's true, one item goes up, and we're going to set the result to processed. So that's if it's true and this field says that the invoice is received, then it's true and it goes to result processed. And then here we can go result not processed. So it'll only ever go to one of these nodes because it's true or false Boolean. So that's why we can set two values, but we'll only get one value in the end. We can save that and test the workflow. And there we go. We should have result processed. So this node here is basically if it's false. So if our condition node has decided that our variable that was set before is not equal to received, then it'll come down here to needs review. So for example, if I change this to pending and I test the workflow, then you can see it went down to false. So result is needs review. Okay, so then let's say we want to carry on this workflow. Now we've got two different ways that the flow goes. So we want to merge these two values together. So here we're going to put in a merge node. This would be set automatically to append number of inputs at 2. You can put this up to 7 or even probably higher if you'd like. You can put it up to 10 if you'd like. For now, we only have 2 outputs. So we're going to set this to append 2 and put these both in here. And then you can see we can test the workflow. And great, now we're back to just one node to simplify it all. And the result is needs review. Great. So as you can see, this would be very helpful to basically use conditional formatting on different data and deciding which flow it goes down based on its result or its output. So now that we've went through a conditional workflow, we're going to go into using our first integration, which is Google Sheets. So for the moment, we can just delete this. So I'm going to go to a blank spreadsheet on Google Sheets. I'm just going to name it invoice tracking. And it's going to be timestamp, invoice ID, and status. Great. So now we can go back to our n8n workflow and we can get the Google Sheets node, Google Sheets, and it's going to be append. I like to do append or update just because if it exists already, then it'll just update the row. And the first thing we're going to do is select a credential. So we need to create a new credential. And all we need to do here is go to this, sign into our account, continue, and then this will automatically close in 1 second. Great, so now our account is connected. You'll get a bit of a confirmation here. We're going to name our credential, Tortec. Always remember to press save on the top right corner. Great, and then we're going to go to invoice tracking, select the sheet, so there's just one sheet on this. And then we're going to go, this is if you're doing append or update, we're just going to match it on timestamp. Timestamp, we're going to switch it from fixed to expression. And then to create a variable, we're just going to do 2 curly brackets. It'll automatically make them on the other side. And we're going to press now, which basically just gives us a timestamp of the exact time right now. And then for invoice ID, we're just going to go inv123, and we'll set the status as received. Great. So if we save that, and then if we test this workflow, we should have these values here. So parse all the way to our Google Sheet. So now we've created the first workflow. Let's give 2 examples of different triggers we can use. So the first and probably the simplest one is on schedule. So we can set this to seconds, 30 seconds, minutes, hours, days, trigger at midnight, or 5 minutes past midnight. It's quite important if you're doing like loads of scheduled triggers in one workflow, space them out a little bit because your n8n account can only handle 20 concurrent workflows at a time, meaning, executions at a time, meaning there can only be 20 executions running at one time. So if you've got loads of scheduled triggers at the same time, but scheduled triggers can be really handy. For example, if you need to run a workflow to update a Google Sheet at midnight every night, or if you're creating a workflow that counts the inventory for a bookshop, but you have to, let's say they update their inventory list every evening, and you schedule that trigger to suit them. Next, we're going to go on to a webhook. So the webhooks, you will see a lot of these if you're working with Make or Zapier, or webhooks are just really handy for, I suppose, talking in between different platforms and sending values. So here we're going to go to production URL. So there's test and production. For the path, it gives you a big random number. You can set it to whatever you want. So I'm just going to say test. And then that will, if we set our automation to active, and if we literally just copy this, pop it into here, and then we can put a query parameter at the end. So we can do message equals hello. We'll just do hello for the moment. Great, so that should have triggered our workflow. It's great. So we go to executions here. We can see that our message that came through just from us popping that into the search bar was hello. That's great. Obviously, you've got lots more information there. You don't really need to worry about the headers for the moment anyway. Great, so now you've seen simple triggers such as webhooks and schedule triggers. Now we're going to move on to an application trigger. So the first one we're going to do is a Gmail trigger. So if we go to here, so on message received, so that means this will trigger when a message is received. And we need to make a credential. Very simple, just like we did with the Google Sheets. All we do is log in here. Connection successful. We'll call this Gmail Tortech. Great, that's saved. And we're going to set this to every minute, I suppose, just to make it really fast and efficient. And then so the workflow is already active. The workflow has to be active in order for these triggers to work. And then we're going to send an email and test this trigger out. Great, so then if we send an email to that account, it should trigger the workflow. Message to n8n and hello, today is Saturday. So if we send that and go back to our workflow, we should see this trigger. Now it's on every minute, so I suppose the maximum it'll take is about 60 seconds. Let's just wait for it to trigger here. Okay, great. So if we go to our executions, which is just here, we can see that it triggered, and we've got the snippet and yeah, just basically all the information about the email. Great. And then if we want to use something that we learned previously in this video, and we want to save the content that we've gotten from the trigger, we're going to use this set fields node. So the first thing to do is always just connect it by simply dragging it, and then we'll put content as hello, today is Saturday. We'll put sender as Luca at Tortech. Now this is obviously this gives the name and the email. Great, Luca Allen. So that's from the sender, and then we can do subject here from here we go. There's the subject, and then if we test this workflow. So when I've pressed test workflow after the trigger, it's just gonna pass on the most recent data that it's gotten. Great. So as you can see here now, we've got these three outputs. So we've got the content, sender, and subject. We've basically just cleaned up the data because as you can see, there's loads of information that we just don't need from the trigger. You can save it. Great, okay, that's fine. Great, so now that we've saved our values, we're going to use the sub workflow function here. So what we're going to do is we're going to execute sub workflow, this one here, and then we need to create a new workflow. So we'll do that first. Right, so all we do is create a new workflow. We go into it and we'll say log email data. And then in this one, we want to start this off with execute sub workflow, but it'll be when executed by another workflow. So that's a trigger. And then in here, we want to add timestamp, sender, email, content, and subject, for example. Great, so once that's saved, we can then add a Google Sheets node to this. So we've already connected our Google Sheets account, so we don't need to do that again. And this time we'll just do append row and sheet. So this is when we want to add a row every single time. Append basically means add, update obviously means update based on a value. So if Luca already had a record in the sheet, you could update it based on the name. But for now, we're going to do append, and we're going to do the same invoice tracking. And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change, we'll keep timestamp, and then we'll go email, content, subject, and sender. And we can delete that data. And we can go back here, go to sheet 1, and it should automatically get the new updated column names. Great, so what we're going to do first is we're going to save this, and we're going to go back to our previous workflow. Great, so here, and we're going to select the workflow log email data, and then in timestamp, we're going to do that variable again. Again, if I do those double curly brackets on fixed, it's not going to do anything. We need to do expressions instead, and I'll give us the time now, and then we're going to execute the previous nodes to get the information. So the sender is Luca Allen, the email content is hello, today is Saturday. It's not actually Saturday. And then the subject is, there we go. So now, but this data could be something completely different. Let's quickly test this just to send it to the other one so that we can, oh, at least one value has to be added. Let's just save that and test it again. Okay, so I can see where the error was here, and it was because we haven't got any data in this yet. So we're going to debug this in editor, and we're going to literally just map this data that we've gotten from our other workflow into our Google Sheet. So email or timestamp, email content, subject, and sender. Now these variables are completely dynamic based on what was actually in the email. So instead of logging that data, what we're going to do is we're going to save it and we're going to send another email. Great, so if we send another email and we're sending it to the email that we've linked up with the n8n account, and the subject is going to be, today is 19 degrees, sorry, this is really random, and hello, I'd like to have a meeting at 3 p.m. Kind regards, Luca. If we send that and then go back to our initial tutorial workflow, we should get the execution through here. Great, so you can see here that the email trigger successfully worked again. Before we even check the sub workflow, let's check our Google Sheets. Great, and you can see that was the most recent email that we sent. I'd like to have a meeting at 3 p.m. today. The subject is today is 19 degrees, and the sender is Luca Allen. Fantastic. Let's check in our sub workflow to make sure everything went according to plan. If we go to log email data, we don't have to have this workflow active because it's based on another workflow's trigger. I don't even think, it doesn't even let us make it active. So if we go to the executions here, we can see that it successfully logged the dynamic variables that we put in there. So yeah, there you go. That's a fully functioning workflow and a sub workflow. Okay, so next we're going to do a HTTPS request. So as you can see, it's still in the same place where we get all our nodes. So the get request, or the method get, is to get content from a page. So for example, if I do https facebook.com, that will get me basically a load of data from facebook.com, whatever it gets from that URL. Okay, so then with the HTTPS request, we're going to use a webhook URL that we got in another workflow. So this is the webhook URL. We'll reference this in a second, and we're going to set the method to post and put the body parameters as message hello. This is for us sending data to a URL through the post method. So if we've saved that and we go across, create a new workflow, and then the webhook will be, so we have to set this also to post and set the path to what we had in the previous HTTPS request, which was HTTPS. Respond immediately, production HTTPS, save, make active. If we go back to our tutorial, just double check after copy and pasting that this is correct. Great. And then if we test this workflow, so that says it sent the post request. If we go back to this, then we should, there we go. So we've sent the data from our HTTPS request and the body is message hello. All the outputs in n8n are in JSON. Now we're gonna, I suppose, show you how to use that JSON and how to use different expressions to extract what you want from that JSON. So for example, if we add another Gmail trigger, and let's just fast forward now, we'll send a quick message. Right, so as you can see here with the email trigger, we've got JSON to the right-hand side. How do we use this JSON? It might look very confusing if you've never seen it before, but it's not. It's basically just words with a few curly brackets and commas in the middle of it. But now, how do we utilize that and how do we use expressions to get different values from it? So we're going to go back to the set fields and we're going to set a flag for urgent. So any urgent emails that come in would be urgent flag, and then we're going to set our expression. So as you can see here, we could just drag this in, but what we could also do is use our curly brackets, and if we put in JSON with a $sign at first, then it just gets all the JSON from the previous node. And then if we want to get a particular one, we can do dot subject. We want to get dot subject, and we want to get, so two ands, and it's going to be JSON dot subject, and we're going to get JSON dot subject. We're going to do two lowercase, so we're going to get the subject in both uppercase and lowercase, and then that'll be fine. Dot includes urgent, and then so as you can see here, it just goes as true. But then if we want to output it in a particular format, so if it does include urgent or if it doesn't include urgent, obviously in lowercase or not in lowercase, then we do full stop urgent or normal. Great, so that's our expression on how we find out if urgent was included in the subject of the email. Great, and now we want to change our timestamp from here, or sorry, the internal date, into a format that we can read. I'm not sure if anyone watching this can read 1745924, blah, 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 but we're going to turn that into a readable format. So now we're going to say, we'll just say time date, and then we're going to put in the curly brackets again, and it's new date, and then it is one open close bracket, number, another one, and then we'll drag, oops, Daisy, we'll drag this internal date into this close bracket, and then we've got the internal date in a readable format. As you can see here, if we test that step, the email was urgent because it had urgent in the subject, and then the time date is in a readable format of when it was sent. So I think, yeah, we've got the output fields. If we want to include the other fields as well as those, all we need to do is tick that, test step again, and then as you can see at the bottom, we've got our custom fields added to the JSON string. Okay, great. And now we're going to use another conditional node, which is going to be switch. And what we're going to do here is we're going to have basically different rules for whatever the email contains. So if it's, first of all, we're going to change this to string, and we're going to do contains. Contains means it just has to be contained in the text. If it's equal to, it has to be equal to. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag the subject over here, but we're going to have to put this to lowercase. As you can see here, meeting is in lowercase. If it had a capital M on it, then it wouldn't basically match because it's case sensitive. So we're going to name this output meeting, and then we're going to create another one where we'll use the same variable, and if the string contains, let's say, invoice, then it's going to go down this route, and we're going to name that invoice. So if we test that step, we'll get, so the subject of the email contains meeting rather than invoice, and then as you can imagine, we can base our flow based on what the email contains. Okay, so now we've got the conditional node after the edit fields node, and so what we're going to do is we're going to give two actions based on the output basically of the switch node here. So if it's a meeting, let's bring it up here, and we'll do another Gmail node, and this will be send a message. So here we are, send a message. We'll keep it on this, and we'll map here we go. And then we'll do and we can just do the message as let's do this text, and we'll say, great, please confirm with bookings at tortech.ai. Just a random thing. Obviously, you can have anything you want in here, such as a Calendly link. You can forward it on to someone. I'm just showing you kind of a useful function that you can do here. Okay, fantastic. Great, so if we test that, you can see this worked here. To look at the calendar, urgent, and then great, please confirm. If we go here, that's the email that we received. Obviously, this is a very simple example of a workflow, just to show you a good use case as to what you can do with different nodes. So when an email comes in that has bookings or has a meeting in the subject, you can send an email back and say, great, please confirm with this email address. Okay, so this next build, we're going to go through how to build a very simple AI agent that books an appointment in my Google Calendar. So what we're going to start off with is the chat trigger, which is just here. And then we're going to attach an AI agent just there. And you can leave this as connected chat trigger node just there. And then we're going to attach our chat model. And I'll show you as well how to add your OpenAI API key. So if we go here and we go create new credential, then you're going to need to go to OpenAI and go to the settings icon in the top right corner, click that, and then you'll be able to click on API keys, which is just here. You'll create a new API key, and we'll just call it n8n test. Remember to log this down somewhere, write it down, anything, just don't copy it and put it straight in because you might lose it and you can't get it back. So you pop that in there. We'll just call this test key so I know which one to delete after. Great. Okay, there we go. So connection tested successfully, and then you can pick whatever model you'd like to do. So for example, for this one, we'll go with 4.0. 4.0 is a pretty good flagship model to use. Next thing is the prompt. So you've got the system message here. So we'll just say, you are a helpful assistant for a barbershop in Dublin, Ireland. Your only job is to book the user in for appointments using your tool book. And then let's say phone is that, and address 1 Bill Street, Dublin 6, Ireland. Obviously that's not a real place. Okay, fantastic. So first of all, if we just test it, make sure it's working and say, where are you located? Should come back, but we're located on 1 Bill Street, Dublin 6. Okay, so now that we know that it's working. And next stage then is to get a memory node. So you can use these when you get into more complex automations, but for the moment, the simple memory is going to work really well for us. So you can keep this on connected chat trigger node, and that'll automatically get the session ID from the input. So for example, when I input in here, it has the session ID, chat input, and action. If I did this again, it would change the session ID. So basically that keeps track of the unique conversation that each user is having. Great. So I've got that connected, and now we'll connect a Google Calendar, and we'll have to create a credential. This is super easy again. All we've got to do here is log in. Great. Back to the agent, that's all connected. And here, we're going to go into expression. We're going to do 2 curly brackets. It'll be from AI. And what we're doing is start time, comma, and start time of the appointment for the user. And then we're going to copy that and we're going to pop this in here. And this is going to be end time, and we'll just do 30 minutes after the start time. Great. Or what we can do is tell this in the prompt, just be extra safe. Appointments are just 30 minutes. Fantastic. So if we save that and select calendar, let's go webbot testing. Okay, and then we go back here and press save and then say, hello, what's your number? Our number is whatever we put in. Let me know if you'd like to book appointments. Yes, can I book in for tomorrow? And we'll say 2 p.m. Fantastic. So now that's successfully booked an appointment. I actually have this account in the time zone of America, Chicago. So it will come out, as you can see, it did book in at 2 p.m. here, and the ending time was 2:30. But it'll come out in Chicago time. Where would the appointment be? Let's have a look where I booked it. So you can see here I booked in 2023. This is actually a really good point to use. So in the prompt, we're going to add in something that says the date and time now is curly brackets. So change that into an expression. If your curly brackets ever don't work, just change it into an expression straight away. And we'll go now dot format. We'll go, I think CCC is the day. Yeah, Tuesday 24th. And we'll actually add HHMM for minutes, time. Perfect. Great, save that. Book for today. I'll say 4 p.m. Great. So you can see here that we've booked in. That's great, 4 p.m., fantastic. The next step now to this AI agent will be adding let's say, attendees. So, and again, we can do expression. We'll use these AI things again. And we'll do email, and then comma, the email provided by the user. So why is this not working? It says undefined at the moment. Okay, let's test it and see if it works. If we also go to summary, so we'll just leave that down to the model to decide what the summary is. And we'll say you need to collect their name and email for the booking. Great. So if we save that and chat again, so we'll say hello in capital letters. Hello, welcome to One Bill Street Barbershop in Dublin. How can I assist you today? Would you like to book an appointment? Yes, book me in for 5 p.m. tomorrow. I hope that could you please provide your name and email address for the booking? Luca is my name. LucaAllen1@gmail.com is my booking, it's my email. And then what this should have done is, yeah, so you can see it got my email correct. And then for the summary, it did haircut appointment for Luca. Perfect. Let's just check the calendar. That's great. For tomorrow. Great. So now you've got a fully functioning workflow and that is an AI agent. Obviously, you guys can let your imagination run wild. If you wanted to, for example, log their name and email to an Airtable, what you do is use an Airtable tool and you'd say update, and then you'd put the columns in for Airtable, such as email, phone number, blah, blah, blah. And there are so many different tools you can use with AI agents that are super useful. So yeah, get creative with it and enjoy. Okay, so now we're going to create an automation that lets you interact with it via Telegram and lets you keep track of all your different expenses, and then you can have summaries of your expenses, ask questions about the money you spend. Quite a simple solution, but a bit more advanced than what we've been doing so far. We're basically mixing everything we've learned so far into one and creating quite a cool solution. So the first thing we're going to do is create a Telegram trigger, which will be on message. There we go, on message. And then we need to create a credential. So what we're doing for that is add new credential, and then we'll go to Telegram. Okay, so as we come onto Telegram, what we're going to do is search for botfather in the top left corner. You click on that, and then as you can see here, I've done it already. So you message it saying /start, and then it gives you a few different options of what to do. So we're going to do new bot. All right, new bot, what are we going to call it? Please choose name for your bot. Luca's bot. Great, let's choose username must end in bot, so Luca's n8n bot. Great, so that's created an API key for us, which we will copy from here, bring back over, enter into here, and save it. Same as the other API keys, put it down somewhere. Obviously, this is just for tutorial purposes, so I'm not saving it anywhere. Great, so once we've done that, we can come out of it. Okay, so the next thing we want to do after this is add an AI agent. So here's the AI agent, and we're gonna define below what to attach it to. So if we, okay, first of all, we've got to test this quickly. So save. We've got to delete this first. If there is any issues with your nodes, it doesn't allow you to save or make it active. So we'll do that first. Go back into Telegram. We're gonna click on our bot, or if we take our bot name here and go up to the search bar, go to here and just say, hello, my name is, actually, we'll do an expense for the sake of it. We'll say €40 for food. Great, so what that should do is it should trigger our workflow. So if we look, great, so we've got an execution here. Then we want to copy to editor. So we want to copy that data, and then we'll put in our AI agent, and we'll do define below. And in here, all we want to do is drag over the message that we sent. And then in this system message, we're going to paste the prompt in there, and then we're just going to have a look at it. So this is basically just formatting what we already put into it in terms of, so if we put in 40 euro on food, it should output something like 40 euro for food, but just in a format with amount, currency, and description. So then we'll attach, get rid of these first, and attach our chat node. You saw already how we did the API with this. You can select whatever one you want. I find 4.0 pretty reliable for this. So if we test this quickly, great, so as you can see, the output is amount, 40 currency, euro description, and it's food. Great, as you can see, this is all in one output at the moment, but what we want to do is we want to split that up into different items. So we're going to use one of the JavaScript code nodes. So here, we'll grab a code node, and we're just going to paste in this code here. So if we test this, obviously this code will be in the template that this is obviously all for, so don't worry about it. If you want to practice writing JavaScript, obviously you can copy it from here, pause the screen, put it into your computer, but if not, that's fine. But anyway, as you can see here, we've got all the different items that have come out there, split into 3 different items. We'll save that quickly. And then what we want to do here is just make sure that the data exists. So for example, if we type in for by accident, hi, how are you doing, or whatever, obviously that's not the format we want. This is just for expenses, so it might not, basically it might not have any kind of output, and then we don't log it into our expense list. So here, what we want to do is we'll do amount. So we'll change this first to is true, and it'll be amount. So exclamation mark equals these two. This variable, json.amount, is not empty. So these 2 things here kind of describe that it could be empty. If it was without this, then we're saying that it is empty, and then that would be false. So there we go. And we'll also do, description as well. There we go. So amount, hold on a second, now it's saying amount is empty. Amount 40. Let's test this quickly. Test this again. Great, so now we've got all the different variables there, and we'll test this and it should be true. Fantastic. Okay, and then we want to bring this down to another AI agent that we're going to use here. And what this is going to do is this is going to first of all categorize it, and then it's also going to change it into whatever currency we want to change it into. So first of all, we're going to list these in here. So this is amount, that one, currency is here, description is there, and then the system message. So as you saw in the previous one, it's super important when we're using tools, what we do and how to call them and what we say in the prompt, because ultimately what an agent is an AI model basically that has the power to call tools if it thinks it should. So you saw in chapter 8 that we just did that we said use the tool to book an appointment when they feel like they need a haircut. We're doing the same here. So you have access to this tool. It's called FX-Rate. And that is basically, we're going to be using a HTTPS request tool, which we used prior in, I think it was one of the trigger nodes, to basically, we're sending a request to a URL and we're trying to get something back. So that's what we're going to be using, but as a tool this time. So we're going to send the euro currency and get back what it is in pound sterling. So the first thing we're going to add is our chat model, which is going to be OpenAI again. You can play around with whatever ones you want. And for this one, we're going to do 4.1 just because we want this to be super accurate in the way it calls tools. Okay, and then after you've added the chat model, we're adding a tool, and it is going to be a HTTPS request. So for this, what we're doing is first we're going to add the description. That is not the description, that's the URL. Add the description here, and then we're going to add the URL here, and then we're going to send query parameters. So for example, for currencies, I know that is going to be Great British Pound, and then there's going to be API key. This is another API key. I'll show you how to get the API key for this thing after this. Just quickly to come back in, to get the API key for the FX rate HTTPS request, you go to the URL here, and you just want to copy this part of it. So it's FX rates API. Copy that, pop it into another browser, and then if you go to get access token, you can sign in with your Google, as I'm doing here, and then go to tokens here on the bar, and then you'll see it here. So if we go here, we can copy our token back into n8n, and this is where you input your key. There we go. But for our one, the API key is going to be here, and for name of the next query parameter, it's going to be base. And for this one, again, we're using this expression from AI. So we're saying it's called the base currency code. USD then is an example of what it could be, and it's a string. So it's basically, we're asking AI, what currency are we translating? And then we've got, so we're going to change the name of this to amount to convert. We can get rid of this USD one, and it's not going to be a string, it's going to be a number. And then the last one we're adding is places, and to, meaning it goes to 2 decimal places, for example 10 pence. Okay, perfect. So if we have that now and we test this quickly, great. So it outputted in the category of food, and it's £33.99. Fantastic. So what we're going to do again, as we did up here, cleaning it up, putting it into different items, is select another code block. For this one, it's going to be this code block, which again should just clean it up, separate it into different items. There we go, category and GBP amount. And then we're going to bring this back up here and merge append. So they can be up to 10 inputs in here. For the moment, all we need is 2, because we're as well as sending that down to the AI agent, we also want its original value. So for example, from this one, we're getting category and pound amount, but in here we had amount, currency, and description in the original format, sorry, from this node. Fantastic. So if we test this one quickly, then we get the 2 different items together. Perfect. Okay, so what we're going to do next now is add all of this to an Airtable record. So go and create record. And so what we're going to want to do is go to Airtable, and you're going to want to create a base within Airtable, and we're going to have amounts, currency. Let's change this to just a number. Okay, fantastic. So once we have this set up, so amount is a number, currency is a single line of text, GBP currency, so that's the price in GBP, number again, description, date, and user ID. Then we're going to go to this help icon here in the top right, sorry. And we're going to go all the way down to API documentation. So when we'll go down until we see create tokens, create new token. The name is n8n tutorial of this token. For scopes, you always want to do the top 2 of each thing. So data records read, data records write, schema bases read, schema bases write. And then you decide what this has access to. In this case, it's tutorial. Create token, copy this, and we'll go back to our project then. We'll create a new personal access token, which is here. Save. Okay, fantastic. And here, we select the base and the table. Table 1, and then we should be able to map everything from here. So if we go amount, currency, GBP amount, description, date would be now, but then we want to format that in CCCC, stands for day, YYY, MMMTZ, as you know, stands for year, month, day, and then we've got capital HH, low MM, and then we got Tuesday, 2025, 4th of whatever. That's perfect. And then we also need the user ID, which we will actually get from all the way back here. We want to keep the user ID so that we know, it's the only really way to uniquely see what user is typing with anything. You can't really go by name because it makes it a bit tricky. So if we test this step, okay, so field user ID cannot accept provided value. consider using typecast option. Okay, so this, oh, as you can see here, this is all a number, so that's what it should be in our table. So if we go back to our table and we change user ID to edit fields, that's a number. Then let's try that again. Perfect. Okay, now it seems, did it have an issue with that? It seems to have an issue with currency and amount. Okay, so I found an issue here. So now that we've changed this to combine position number of inputs, then we can test it, and now you can see everything's coming out together rather than in two outputs. So now if we test the error table, it should, there we go, so that should have all logged. Let's check. Yeah, that's great. We've got the amount, the currency, GBP currency, description, date, and user ID. Okay, so now you've got a great workflow that includes lots of good conditional nodes, even some custom code nodes, 2 AI agents, and a pretty cool custom HTTPS request. Now we're going to take this automation just one step further and see if we can make it just a little bit better. The first thing we're going to do is add a switch node to here, and we're going to add, so the message that the user sends here, and we're going to say on the string, start with /ask. And we're going to put this as ask. And then we're going to do the same thing for here, but it's going to be string starts with /summary. And then for the last one, we're actually going to leave these two blank and do expense. So if we test, great, so expense should still come down there. Great, and then these two are going to go to sub workflows. So we're going to execute a workflow for each of these. Perfect. Okay, you're probably wondering what is happening now, but what we're doing basically, rather than just logging things to our Airtable, what we want to do is also ask a question regarding the Airtable and also request a summary. Let's just do this as well, of our spending. So this is how we're going to go about it. Great, so the first thing we're going to do is create a workflow, and it's going to be when executed, oops, daisy, when executed by another workflow, and we're going to call it the ask, we'll do /ask workflow. Great, so that's now saved. Let's just add a query here just so that we can save this project. And then we'll go back to the other. So now we're back at our main workflow, and in here we're going to pop in ask workflow. Great. Okay, so now you can see query is there because we've got query here. Okay, so what we're actually going to add in here is message and chat ID. Great. So we'll save that. Go back to our tutorial, refresh this, as you can see here. Okay, so we're going to create a new workflow here also for the summary workflow. Great, and we're going to do when executed by another workflow, and just to add something, we'll just do user ID because I know that will be in it. Great, save that. Let's go back to our main workflow, and for this one, it's going to be / oops daisy. So let's refresh this database. Great, summary workflow, and we're going to map that in. First of all, let's save this. And now let's test again in order to test it. So we'll do /ask, how much have I spent on food? Okay, fantastic. As you can see, it went to this workflow. So now we should have some data in here to mess around with. Great. Okay, so let's copy that to the editor and let's get started on this workflow. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is add a switch node. Obviously, we've used these quite a lot. They're just super handy for deciding which way the workflow is going to go based on the input. So we're going to add the message, which is here. And we're going to ask if this contains, so if the string contains today, name that today, add routing, we'll do week, and then month, oops, almost forgot to change these to contains. There we go. So we've got today, week, and month. And then similar to as we did in the last one, we're actually going to leave the last one blank. And this one's going to be unknown. Fantastic. So if we test that, it should go down unknown. Great. Okay, let's start adding some nodes onto these endings then. And now we're going to do an edit fields. And it's going to be filter formula. And then we're just going to pop a formula into here. So this here is going to be and is same day, today, days, right? Yeah, that's perfect. So we're just getting everything from today. And then we're going to have the week. So we're going to have this to set fields, and we're going to do the exact same thing. So it'll be filter formula, and this is going to be week. And that is empty, and this should be string. Yes, that's correct. And then this one should be set, and oops daisy, wrong one again. This one should be filter formula, and this one should be month. Great. And then we're just, for an unknown one, we're just going to put a Telegram send text message. I'm going to put the chat ID as, let me get this from here because it's not going down the right flow. To get this from here, put the chat ID in there, and text, please query with today, week, or month. Okay, fantastic. Okay, so here, so in this execute workflow now we've got message and chat ID. We're going to put message as here, and chat ID should come from the Telegram trigger. So that would be message ID, chat ID here. Great, so we can test that. So this expects a string. We can change these to allow any type here. And then save this. So let's do a bit of a test on our bot. Let's say $40 on food, 67 euro on clothes, and let's say 24 on groceries. And then we want to ask today. Let's just check what this comes through as first, because we won't be sending a message just yet. Okay, well that's great. It's all appeared in our Airtable. It's the first thing to check for. And then here, it should have come to, yes, ask today. So let's copy that to editor. And then let's bring this down to an Airtable node. We want to search records. And we want to get tutorial, table 1, and then filter the formula with whatever, because we spell filter formula the same in all 3 of the set nodes, they'll be the same. So if we test this step, it should give me back today. So if I then use Telegram again to send a text message, we've got the chat ID all the way back from here, and the text, let's format this text first before sending it back to ourselves. How about that? Okay, so what we want to do now is just link them all up. Let's save that quickly, delete that for the moment, save that, and let's test that again. So if we do ask week, then check the executions, and great, it should get everything from the week. 3 items, yeah, that sounds right. 3 items are there. Okay, so the next step is we want to get the total of all of these. So what we're going to do is add another JavaScript code. Okay, and then we're going to pop the code in there, and this basically is add up the total amount that is in the Airtable. So if we test this step, and it has total 110.76 over your selected period, and then what we'll do with that is send this all back to Telegram, send a text message. We get the chat ID from the first one, and can't determine. And then in the text, we'll go with this. So if we test this, so here we need to go first. That happens sometimes with code block. I'm actually quite happy it happened there because it will happen to you along your journey of building stuff. If you put a code block in the middle, it can kind of undo some of the variables from before. So if we test that now, there, we got the message. So now if I say ask today, great, total has been 106 over 6 period. Fantastic, right, so that's all working. For example, if I say $59 on dinner, then I say ask today again, it should be great. So obviously I put that into pounds and then give me the total pounds. Fantastic. So now we've got quite a cool expense tracker, really good to just have on your phone and Telegram, and yeah, keep track of what you're spending on holiday or wherever it might be. Okay, so now for summary, the first thing we want to do is try to trigger it. So we'll go into Telegram and we'll say summary. It shouldn't do anything, but it should come up here. Okay, fantastic. So if we copy that to the editor and then go on set fields. Okay, so now with the summary workflow, once you have an example of your data here, which you can do from just testing a workflow on here, as you see with there, as long as you add user ID, JSON message from ID, where you parse from there. And then on this node, you want to have user ID and allow any type. So after that, we're going to do a set field again. And that we're going to name formula with this formula, but it's going to be user ID. I respelled it because that's the way it's spelled in my Airtable. And then that should be user ID like that. Once it turns green, you know it's good because we've just got it from there. So if we test that, now we're going to do a similar thing again. We're going to search the Airtable here, tutorial, table 1, and we're going to drag and drop this over. Test step. Okay, fantastic. So once we have a summary a bit like that, we're going to add actually another code node here. And then in the JavaScript node block, what we're going to do is paste in this JavaScript code. If you want to quickly have a look at a screenshot and copy it in yourself, please feel free, but it will be in the template. And then if we test that step, we should get, okay, perfect. So it's done a little bit of a summary for us. And then if we go to Telegram and we say that we want to send a text message, we go here. The chat ID is this user ID, and then the text, oh, anything red is always not good. There we go. And then the text is breakdown for, and we'll go, C, HH, oh, we don't need the time actually, we'll just do that. I will say report is the summary from here, markdown report. So as you can see here, we've got a bit of a report of our spending, description, total, shopping, food. If I add another thing, I'll say 7,000 euro on a car. And then I ask for a summary. Let's make sure that workflow is saved. Save this. And then back, and now ask for another summary. We should get some kind of answer back. Okay, so transport, that's how much it was in pounds, etc., etc. And if I, you know how it is, if I say I want to ask for today, anyway, you get now how this can make sense. But yeah, if you followed along and built all of this, then congratulations, because you have just basically combined so much stuff into one, build an n8n. You've got 3 workflows altogether, about 4 custom code nodes. So yeah, let me know how you get on with this, and yeah, I look forward to seeing your results.
And there you have it. You've just completed our comprehensive n8n masterclass, from understanding the basic building blocks to implementing complex AI-powered workflows. You've gained valuable skills that can transform how you handle automation. We've covered a lot in these 8 chapters: navigating the n8n canvas, understanding different node types, working with expressions, implementing AI nodes, and bringing everything together in our Telegram expense tracker project with currency conversion, categorization, and data storage. I hope Luca's clear explanation helped you understand exactly how these powerful workflows come together. As you saw, the beauty of n8n is how it connects these individual concepts into complete practical solutions. As you start building your own automations, remember some key best practices. Keep your workflows organized with clear node names. Use sub-workflows for reusable components, implement proper error handling, and lastly, test incrementally as you build. Whether you're a complete beginner who's just getting started, or someone looking to enhance your existing automation skills, I encourage you to experiment with what you've learned. The possibilities with n8n are truly endless. If you found this tutorial helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe for more automation content. And I'd love to hear in the comments what you plan to build with n8n. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, happy automating.